I used to be incredibly messy. My friends used to joke around and call me the hoarder, just like the people on those TLC shows. People constantly told me that if I just brought a little more order into my life, I'd probably feel a lot better. I knew they were right, but somehow that only made me want to tidy up even less. But then I made 3 simple changes to my routine. It didn't change my life, and I didn't turn into Marie Kondo, but my home is definitely much more organized now. I realized how exhausting my mess was a couple of years ago. And let me ask you something. What does it feel like to get home after hours of traffic and a hectic day at work? Personally, I feel relief. Freedom. There's a sense of joy that I'm always happy to experience when I walk through the door and my dog comes to greet me. But that little bubble of happiness bursts the moment you're welcomed by yesterday's dirty dishes, silently wondering when they'll finally be washed, or when your living room couch has somehow turned into a second closet for no apparent reason, piled with the clothes you were supposed to fold last week. That's exactly how my home used to feel before I made these changes. In those moments, I was overwhelmed by the sheer size of the mess. I didn't even want to be home anymore. Sometimes I'd rather escape to the gym, or anywhere else, really, just to avoid facing the reality of my procrastination. Of course, I didn't always have the energy to run away, so instead, I'd make a little space on the couch between the clean clothes, or at least I hoped they were clean, sit down, grab my phone, and start watching YouTube videos. The plan was always the same. I'd clean everything over the weekend. If I was too tired to clean during the week, then the weekend was obviously the perfect time. What I didn't know back then was that this pattern actually has a name: all or nothing thinking. It's one of the biggest reasons people fail. I convinced myself that all the mess could be dealt with over the weekend. But when the weekend finally arrived, the disaster had grown so much that cleaning it all felt impossible unless I wanted to spend every free hour doing chores. And spending your weekend, your actual free time, cleaning the house wasn't exactly appealing. Every other plan, from a barbecue to spending the afternoon at the pool, sounded far more exciting than organizing the new mountain growing on my couch, or washing the dishes that had piled up so much I couldn't even cook anymore because every plate was dirty. So I failed. Every single weekend. The first time I brought my girlfriend over to my place, even though I had been hesitant about it, her face said everything. Even though I had clearly made an effort the day before, the mess was still obvious. "You should be more organized," she said. And she was right. But hearing it made me even more frustrated, because come on, I already knew I was messy. I didn't need someone reminding me of something I was already telling myself every single week while making plans to dedicate the weekend to cleaning my entire apartment. Plans that never happened. Hearing something I already knew wasn't helping me at all. Later, I discovered that this reaction actually has a name: psychological reactance. Your brain hears the words "you should" and immediately wants to do the opposite. It doesn't matter if the other person is right. Your girlfriend tells you that you should clean your house? Your mom says you should get organized? Of course you already know you should, but it had to be my decision to change, not theirs. For a while, my girlfriend preferred not to come over anymore. And that frustrated me even more, because honestly, I didn't want to be in my house either. One day after work, I simply didn't want to go home. I already knew what would be waiting for me, and I wasn't in the mood to clean, or even to look at the mess. Avoiding it felt easier. So I went to a friend's house instead and spent a few hours talking. Without a doubt, avoiding my mess had become one of my favorite coping strategies. That same night, when I finally got home, something clicked. Maybe it was because I'd spent weeks avoiding my own house. Maybe it was something my friend had said. I'm not exactly sure, but I sat down and started asking myself why I resisted so strongly something that I knew would make me feel better. Trying to understand why I resisted cleaning even more whenever someone suggested it, I realized there were 3 recurring patterns. I always said I'd do it over the weekend. I avoided getting home early so I wouldn't have to see the mess. And I got angry whenever the people closest to me reminded me of what I already knew, that I needed to clean. Once I understood what was stopping me from keeping my home organized, I realized there had to be ways to remove those barriers. So I started reading about organization, about discipline, about how I could improve my home little by little. There are endless videos on Instagram and YouTube about home organization. They're almost hypnotic to watch. For a while, I wished there were a magic solution, but I knew it had to come from me. One of the books that helped me the most was Atomic Habits. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, James Clear tells the story of the British cycling team, which wanted to win an Olympic medal. They started by making tiny improvements, even something as simple as changing the bicycle seats. Those tiny 1% improvements eventually helped them become Olympic champions. That idea stuck with me. Instead of trying to transform my entire house overnight, I focused on making my own 1% improvements. The first was giving up the habit of saving everything for the weekend. Instead of spending an hour cleaning before bed, I cleaned for about 15 minutes after each meal. Not the whole kitchen, just a little. By the end of the day, there's barely anything left to do. The second change was making one weekday my cleaning day instead of sacrificing my weekends. For me, that's Thursday. For you, it can be any day. The important part is making it consistent. The third change was giving everything a home. The keys, the shoes, the wallet. Instead of leaving things wherever I happened to drop them, I started putting them back where they belonged. If I create less mess during the week, there's less to clean later. Like I said at the beginning, I'm still far from being a perfectly organized person. I'm nowhere near the level of those home organization creators on YouTube. But today, when I get home, my living room isn't a second closet anymore. Not because I became a different person. Because I stopped waiting for motivation. I stopped waiting for the weekend. I just made 3 small changes and repeated them. That's it, and that was enough.